think it's an understatement to call the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Direct killer. Fans were bombarded with new information on a near constant basis, with new items, stages, assist trophies, modes, and characters getting revealed. There's a lot to take in, especially when it comes to the reveal of Simon and Richter Belmont of Castlevania fame. Over 6 minutes of the Direct focused on pure Castlevania goodness, and you might not have caught it all. Now, there's no need to cry bloody tears. The old analysis machine is here to take a closer look at the secrets and hidden details you might have missed. So let's get started, but not necessarily with Castlevania. Ostensibly, Luigi was the star of this reveal as he made his way through the haunted castle. And unfortunately for Nintendo's resident Ghostbuster, the Poltergust isn't really equipped for mummies and Dracula's other minions. But there's something rather interesting about that Poltergust in the fact that it's a brand new one. While matching the basic idea of the Poltergust 3000 and 5000, the backpack now features a long green container that's kind of reminiscent of a bagless vacuum, perhaps the best sense that the Poltergust has been upgraded. And it also has the new ability to shoot out the end like a plunger, despite it still having the bulb within. Granted, the 5000 version could switch between the light and the vacuum on the fly, so it's not unheard of, especially because the part that was shot out is reloaded between scenes. So yeah, we're not really going for realism here. But it is odd that a brand new Poltergust has seemingly been designed for Smash Ultimate. And the curious part of it is, this is the first time we've seen the Poltergust at all, as it hasn't been featured in any of Luigi's gameplay. So it's quite likely that this design will be used in the main game as well. The bigger question is whether this hints at a new Luigi's Mansion that would use the redesigned Poltergust. Is this our sneak peek at the Poltergust 6000? It's impossible to know for sure, but we definitely hope it works better against ghosts than it does monsters. A fella could die if he's not careful. Oh. Well, you just proved my point, Luigi. No wonder you never show up again for the rest of the Direct. Now, let's go ahead and take a closer look at the brand new characters in Smash Ultimate. Konami got a second representative in the form of Simon Belmont from Castlevania, Castlevania 2, Super Castlevania 4, and Castlevania Chronicles, although the latter two are retellings of the original games. And not only did we get Simon, but his Echo Fighter Richter Belmont as well from Rondo of Blood and Symphony of the Night. While the two are separate, the Direct didn't really go into their differences, and there doesn't seem to be many outside of aesthetics, so it's safe to assume that if one of them can do something, so can the other. Naturally, the Belmonts are equipped with the legendary whip Vampire Killer, though it's notable that this is the final form of the weapon, as it could be upgraded from leather to the lengthy Morningstar whip we see here. This allows Simon to have the longest range in the game at the sacrifice of his mobility. He's not limited to just his whip though, as we see Simon performing a downward kick that actually launches him back into the air if it connects with an opponent. It has the potential to lead to some unique edge guarding at higher level play, though that idea is obviously quite dangerous. We would assume that the attack is his downward air attack. However, his other air attacks do use the Vampire Killer. The forward, back, and up air attacks in those respective directions, while his neutral air swings the whip around him as he jumps. But it appears that even those directional whip strikes can be sent at angled directions, just like Super Castlevania 4. And speaking of jumping, his jump animation is exactly the same as the original Castlevania. He even has the trademark strut when walking. Simon just has a bit more mobility since he can change directions in midair and double jump. But it's a wonderful attention to detail that Sakurai and his team excel at. That said, Simon doesn't use the whip in conjunction with his grab. Instead, he simply reaches out. There's no extra reach thanks to his weapon, which makes sense in terms of game balance considering how long it really is. While he might not be able to grab opponents, Simon is able to use the Vampire Killer to grab ledges, as we see in his character trailer. This is actually canon with the games, as Simon could use his whip to swing across certain gaps in Super Castlevania 4. What he couldn't do in his games is the whip twirl when using a dash attack, or the leap kick from Rondo of Blood. Both of these are more Richter's speciality. What's especially interesting about the leap kick though is that it begins as a slide kick. So we think that it will be the down attack, and if the player pushes the attack button again while sliding, the leap kick will be performed. It can even be done in quick succession, as we see with this attack on Wario, but in every case the slide has to be done first. The leap can't happen without it. The final standard attack we see also likely has a unique input. Simon is able to move his whip freely like in Super Castlevania 4. Based on how he never moves when using the attack, it's likely performed in the same way as the original game, where the player holds down the attack button and moves the control stick to wave the whip around and hit nearby enemies. It's a unique gambit in Smash, but if used properly it can block projectiles, as we see it cancel Mega Man's shots and even Metal Blades. So it roots you in place, but you could be difficult to attack if on the defensive. That might be all the standard attacks, but Simon and Richter reach into their sub-weapons for the specials. We believe that the axe will serve as the neutral special, while the cross will be the side special. Both of these weapons can go through multiple opponents, making them useful for damaging groups. We think the holy water will be the down special. It's also the only move that appears different between Simon and Richter. There might be another, but we haven't spotted it yet. And even this difference is only one of color. The flames that erupt from Simon's holy water are red, while Richter's are blue. And this is actually quite appropriate, as those were the colors of the flames in their respective games. There just doesn't seem to be any other differences between them. So perhaps Echo Fighters don't have to be different at all when it comes to moves, just in aesthetics and animations. The final special we see is the Recovery, which uses the knife sub-weapon as an uppercut. This means that Simon has a greater chance of coming back to a stage vertically rather than horizontally. Although, the fact that he can grab the sides of stages with his whip may negate this problem, especially because of the vampire killer's sheer length. Simon's final smash is the Grand Cross, the item crash for the cross sub-weapon in Rondo of Blood. Ironically, we haven't seen Richter use his final smash. Presumably it's the same, especially since it originates from his game, but we'll have to wait and see for sure. Richter's animations pulls deep from Rondo of Blood though. One of the taunts we see him use is the exact same pose from Rondo of Blood's cover, while his victory pose is the same victory symbol he throws out during an animation in that game. There's a lot of love for Castlevania to be found in Smash, and that's just for the characters. We still have the new stage, Dracula's Castle, to look over. It's based on the final area of Castlevania where Dracula awaits atop a staircase. We can actually see the crumbling ruins of those stairs on the right side, in addition to the clock tower which Simon had to navigate through in the original game to get to this point. Then there's the giant crescent moon that rests in the sky behind that. It's a pretty faithful recreation of this battleground between the Belmonts and Dracula. The center of the stage features two floating platforms that constantly raise and lower, and behind them we can spot Dracula's coffin, just like in the original game. This area is also not even with the sides, as it dips slightly rather than remain a flat platform. Candlesticks can appear as well, and destroying them will grant items, just like the hearts and sub-weapons that could appear in Castlevania. All of this makes for a stage that stays faithful to the original, but there's an extra Smash flair in the form of monsters that can appear, sometimes as hazards. The first we see is Medusa, who also appeared to terrorize Luigi. In both cases, she makes her entrance just like the original Castlevania, where she begins as a statue and cracks open to reveal her true form. However, at no point do we see her attack anyone. Instead, it's almost as if she's a background element, even though it's completely possible that she'll begin moving around the stage as either a hazard or outright boss. Likewise, the Mummy Man appears in the center of the stage, but we see it take a swipe at the foreground, meaning players might not be able to fight back, only dodge. There's only one Mummy Man though, whereas the original game featured two. And this is reflected by the CG trailer where we see two of them attack Luigi, so it's possible that a second Mummy Man will be here as well. Next up is the Creature and a Flea Man, another boss from the original Castlevania. Unfortunately, they don't really do anything, so we have no clue what kind of threat they pose, though we imagine the Flea Man could hop around the stage haphazardly while the creature slowly walked forward, potentially causing great damage. Death makes a grand entrance by shattering the windows in the background, but we don't see him attack either. He might take swipes at fighters with his scythe like he does to Luigi in the CG trailer, or he could send out smaller size to disrupt the fight like in the original game. Again though, we can't really know for sure. The next monster to appear is Carmilla, who only shows up in a black void behind the missing window. All she does is leak purple blood from her eye, so she might not even be a hazard, just a cameo. She's also the first of these monsters not to appear in the original Castlevania. Instead, she debuted in Castlevania 2, which is where this mask design originates. She returned as a boss in Rondo of Blood, where the mask fell apart to reveal a skull and Carmilla hiding behind it. Considering the risque nature of Carmilla in Rondo of Blood, we don't think this form will be featured. The final monster we see is the werewolf, which bursts through the window to likely claw at any nearby fighters. The werewolf first appeared in Castlevania 2 as well, but this specific design debuted in Rondo of Blood. Now, we say werewolf is the final monster we see because the other two don't actually make an appearance. Lightning flashes simply hint at the arrival of Dracula and Kid Dracula, which is just an awesome out-of-nowhere reference. However, we don't think either of them will come to the stage as hazards. They're more like background Easter eggs, so no modern Kid Dracula, which is why his shadowed pose likely matches his artwork from that game. Now, of course, we do see Dracula in the flesh, but never on the Dracula's Castle stage. At least not this one. The stage where we see the fight against Dracula is similar to the Dracula's Castle stage, except that there's no edge to fall from and Dracula's chair sits in front of the center window. It's a much wider and flatter stage than anything we typically see, and that's because this is likely not a typical Smash stage. Instead, it's designed for the fight against Dracula and is similar in construction to many of the boss arenas from the Subspace Emissary in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Even the Monster Hunter stage featuring Rathalos as a boss sports a similar design. But in both Dracula and Rathalos' case, the narration mentions a chance to fight the two of them, meaning it's not a guarantee. That likely indicates that these potential boss stages are not part of a Subspace Emissary-like mode. Not exactly anyway. Instead, it might be closer to the adventure mode from Melee. In that mode, there were specific sequences that only occurred if certain things were done, so it was possible to miss some events. Perhaps the boss fights work in a similar manner. You could fight Dracula as long as you complete the right tasks. This is purely conjecture on our part though, so it could be something completely different. No matter what it ends up being though, these aren't stages for the main game. And that's not to say we know nothing about this mode. While most of the footage only shows one character fighting Dracula at a time, there is a single scene that features Simon and Richter working together in this battle, meaning the fights will allow for co-op. These bosses, or at least Dracula, seem a lot more involved than what was shown in Brawl, at least in terms of enemy attacks. Dracula's design seems to mainly pull from his Symphony of the Night incarnation, which is still twice the size of most characters. Attack-wise though, he mainly pulls from Rondo of Blood. The fireballs from his cape are like the original Castlevania, but he does the same attack in Rondo as well. And that's also where the barrage of dark energy balls come from. Dracula is able to move from one side of the stage to the other by transforming into a horde of bats, which can also damage fighters. Then there's the fire pillars, which are pulled from the Dracula fight in Castlevania 3, except these pillars are way bigger and harder to avoid. And though we don't see much of it, Dracula does have a second form from Castlevania and Rondo of Blood, meaning he keeps his multiple phases. And there's still more love for Castlevania in this Smash Ultimate Direct, as Alucard from Symphony of the Night will be an assist trophy. He appears to be one of the trickier ones to defeat too. He's equipped with the best weapon from Symphony, the Crusagram, and can transform into a bat to cross gaps and damage opponents, or even dodge attacks by transforming into mist. That's not his only dodge either, as his backdash doesn't just act as a quick retreat, but a complete sidestep as Fox's blaster shoots past him. If he only backdashed, that blaster would still have hit him. He can even attack from above with a downward kick, making him one of the most versatile assist trophies in the game. Okay, we're almost done here, but there's still one major aspect of the Castlevania series that we haven't covered: the music. And it has a lot of songs in Smash Bros. Ultimate, 34 in fact. And not only that, but the Direct revealed every one of these songs. So we're planning to cover each of them in an upcoming video where we'll highlight a sample and provide which game and location the music comes from. It's not quite an analysis, which is why we're making it a separate video, but please look forward to it. The representation of Castlevania in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is simply phenomenal. 2 playable characters, a new stage, a classic fight against Dracula, an assist trophy, the Death Scythe item, and plenty of music. We can't wait to see how much love some of the other newcomers might receive. Of course, if we missed anything, let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and be sure to hit that subscribe button for future analyses and even more from GameXplain.